Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Antry, Associate Editor of Audioholics. I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant, the show where we answer your questions about all things home theater and audio video. And we will have to say happy Thanksgiving to all of our friends in the United States. This will be the show just prior to Thanksgiving. And I hope everyone is making turkey because I hear it takes a lot to make a stew. So,
It
just,
takes a lot to make a stew.
you sent me that thing that you were like a week and a half late on as far as, when Twitter blew up about it. Too many cooks.
Oh, too many cooks. That's right. Yes, it does. So, I could be late on things. I've got other things to do in my life. Speaking of other things to do in my life, we do have cause for celebration. At least, well, I don't know. Maybe celebrations will be not nice, but my parents moved out, so I got my home theater back.
Okay, getting your home theater back is cause for celebration.
That being said, the stand that I use for my center channel is still being used right now, so I have not set up. I've gotten everything plugged in. I got the new receiver in. It's networked. It's ready to go. The projector screen's mounted to the ceiling. The speakers are all plugged in. The right and the center channel may or may not have the right cables plugged into them. I'm not sure. I hung 1, 2, 3, 4 acoustical panels on the walls, the side walls, the front and back walls. There's no space for them. I thought I could fit some in, but probably not. So I'm not gonna. Yeah, that's good.
Have you heard anything? Have you played a single note?
I have not played a single note in here yet.
Okay, so it's just physical connections.
Well, yeah, and I had to move out all of my brother's stuff. Well, they moved out most of it. I had to move out the last couple of things because it was in my way. Then I moved in all the furniture, and then the mounting of the panels on the wall was kind of a pain. But it's done. So we are within a week of me getting this completely hooked up and
actually seeing if your X4000 works.
It turned on. I can tell you that much. It turned on. It has no sources plugged into it at this moment, but it has turned on. That is a thing that happened. So yeah. All right. There's that. Let's talk about.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So last week was our Epson episode. Oddly enough, this week I don't know. We'll see what it's going to end up being. But we do have some listeners of the week. We have John. John B. was one of our listeners of the week. Jose, who was the one who told us that we were stupid for not liking two-channel more than multi-channel, and he, instead of getting insulted by our response, or rebuttal, if you will, he wrote back and said he really appreciated us addressing him on the podcast, and gave us a big long thing we'll talk about in a second, probably.
Sure.
And he was so... I guess happy that he got mentioned, though really it's not as hard as you think. He gave us a little bit of a donation there, which we'll talk about how to do that.
Yes, which is like the absolute best possible outcome that I didn't even
would not have
was
crossed
possible.
my mind. No.
It was not what I can't say it's what I hoped for because I didn't even consider it as a possibility. So
I was just hoping for not. I was hoping for no response. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking if the best case scenario is that it's the last we ever hear of Jose. That's what I thought, but this was even way better than that. So we got Matthew M. and Michael R., who's one of our listeners of the week this week. Michael, we're going to talk about this in a second. I got an email from a listener who is not Michael is visually impaired.
Yes.
So he uses a lot of apps to help him navigate things because he can't see so well. We got an email from a listener named Buddy who is blind, and I was like, I have no way of helping this guy. So I forwarded it to Rob, who forwarded it to Michael, and Michael wrote back with this huge response. I hope it helps Buddy out. I haven't heard back from Buddy yet, but I hope it helps him out, and it helped me out. So we want to thank Michael for being a good listener and a good helper.
Absolutely, and he's donated several times in the past, so he's absolutely deserving of being a listener of the week for helping us out as much as he did. He went above and beyond.
Yes, absolutely. And lastly, we have Matt H., who wrote to Accessories for Less to tell them that he purchased his Denon AVR X4000, yay, from them, and that was thanks to our recommendation. So, if you want to become a listener of the week, you can do something like Michael did and just help out in some way, or like Matt did, and report that you bought something based on our recommendation to the person to let us know about it. Or if you want to give us a donation, you can go to www.avrant.com. Go click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee little image there, and it will take you to a PayPal donation. And every little bit helps. We use that to pay for our hosting and streaming and all that stuff. Yeah. So that's how many people do that. We always appreciate it, and that's how you become a listener of the week, because I get a little notification that says, hey, so-and-so donated.
Yes, thank you to John, thank you to Jose, thank you Matthew, thank you Michael, and thank you Matt. Wow, that's a lot of M names I just realized.
It really is.
I didn't even really notice it in text. But there it is.
Is it J's and M's this week? J's and M's.
J's and M's, yeah.
MJ's. MJ's. Mary, there you go. MJ's. That's better. Because it's Spider-Man reference. Okay.
Okay.
A drug reference. A spider. Come on. You Canadians and your...
We used to be known for salmon up here. Not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore. Now it's all about the MJ. All right. So this is the podcast where we answer your AV and home theater questions. And to get your questions answered, you have to ask them. There are lots of ways. You can go to the website, which I already mentioned, and leave a comment. You can email us at rob@avrant.com, tom@avrant.com. We've got Twitter at @FirstReflect for Rob and at @avrant_Tom for me. I do check Twitter. I know I don't tweet very much anymore, but I used to. I do check it. It exists.
Matt, he saw what was trending a week and a half later. He checks.
No, I didn't even get that from that, dude. I did not get that from that. I got it from something else. I was randomly surfing some website and was like, "What the heck is Too Many Cooks?" I saw a reference, and there's lots of people who don't know what that was. So Too Many Cooks. If you don't know what it is, don't feel bad. I didn't either. It's a video that was on Adult Swim, and you have to Google it and watch it, and then try to get that song out of your head and try to sleep afterwards.
I will say, the opening credits might have been a little bit long, but the episode itself, fantastic.
It was really it was captivating.
What a cliffhanger, man!
Yeah,
I can't wait to see the next one.
Can't wait to see next week. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. We got distracted there. What else do we have? Oh yeah, Facebook.com/AVRant podcast. It's all one word. That's where a lot of people get in touch with us. You of course like the Facebook page if you feel so inclined, and you'll see our updates, which will tell you about when we post stuff, and a lot of the links that we talk about will get posted over there as well if you don't feel like going to the website. Now, we do record this podcast on Google+. If you would like to join in and watch, you can go and friend me or put me in the circle. It's just Google+ plus Tom Andrew. Something like that. I don't know. Anyways, find me, put me in a circle. If I don't know who you are and you don't seem like some sort of marketer or scammer type person, I will put you into a listener circle, and then that listener circle gets notified of these podcasts, which are recorded 9 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday.
Except for next week.
Except
next week
for
will
next
be on
week.
Wednesday.
Which will be on Wednesday, yes. We are also having a massive storm here in Florida where I live, so if we lose power, then this podcast will start again 24 hours from now. So we'll see you on Wednesday this week, too, because I'm not signing back in to try to fix this thing. We're just going to...
okay.
Okay? That's the plan.
There's my heads up. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
Not gonna. If I just drop out, then you'll know. I will tweet you and let you know that has happened. So, did I miss anything?
That's all our contact. Let's not forget what Jose wrote, though. So.
Oh yeah, let's go back to Jose.
Bounce back up to that.
All right, so Jose wrote us about 2-channel and said that we were stupid. Basically, that his 2-channel gear is way better than his multi-channel gear, or that sound. You cannot have that same experience with multi-channel that you can with 2-channel. 2-channel imaging is better and more involving and better. Our response was, why does your 2-channel gear so much better, or why is your multi-channel gear so much worse than your 2-channel gear? Basically, and that there's no reason that you can't, and that we never said that 2-channel was bad. It's just that, multi-channel is kind of what home theater is all about. So he wrote us a long response back on Facebook. I don't know if everybody can see that or just us.
Not that, but I think it's fair to post his equipment list at least.
Yeah.
And, things he was saying about his listening. So
yeah. So he has a bunch of his 2-channel setup is like an old vintage analog gear. I say old like that's. I don't want you to think that sounds bad. It's just vintage. So, and then with the analog gear, it's not gonna. I mean, it's analog. It's if it was good in linear, it's still good in linear, theoretically. But his two-channel setup uses a pair of Carver speakers with 5-foot ribbon drivers made to 4 12-inch cones in each speaker. And his home theater, on the other hand, uses 11. Not 11. I thought he had a 7.1.
Well, he said 9.2, I think, but then he said his front three plus 8 other bookshelves, which in my math equals 11. So.
Okay. Anyways, he has some indeterminate number of Polk speakers of the RT series, but the two-channel is really what he finds as spectacular imaging, which doesn't surprise me considering he's using these massive ribbons.
It's a lot like 5-foot ribbons, not 5-inch, 5-foot ribbon.
Massive. So, just like I said, the best listening experience I ever had was with electrostats, and it absolutely can. I have not had that same sort of experience with multi-channel, even though it's very easy for pans to go front back. Multi-channel, it's not the same as when it sounds like it's coming from inside your own head, which is what electrostats sound like when you're sitting in right that spot. And he does admit that sweet spot of his is very, very small, but he doesn't care. It's only his sweet spot, so everybody else can suck it. Which that's fine. I got no problems with that. But this is to me akin to saying, headphones are better than home theater because headphones, everything, headphones have just, it's much more personal for me, and it's a very, less distractions, all this stuff, yeah, but headphones and home theater are a completely different animal, and these big electrostatic or ribbon speakers, I don't even call them tweeters, ribbon speakers that he's using, it's not the same thing. It's just absolutely not the same thing. And in fact, they're completely inappropriate for home theater use anyways.
Yeah, well, I liked this reply that he gave because this really clarified it for me, right?
Yeah.
Because this makes sense. What he's saying totally makes sense, that you really can't use the type of speakers that he's using in his two-channel system. You really can't use them for home theater unless you just completely don't care about stereo imaging for everyone other than one person who's right in the middle. And that just isn't usually the way we think of a home theater. So, when he was saying in his original message, two-channel and surround sound home theater are two separate worlds, now that makes sense because I know where he's coming from now. And I totally agree. It would be like saying, speakers and headphones are two separate worlds. You get two different experiences, and one really can't completely mimic the other.
Yeah, I agree.
That does make sense to me now, where he's coming from in that. And it is interesting because there are going to be times where, of course, you're going to prefer one over the other depending on what it is that you're listening to. So, I mean, the only way you could really have this all in one room, not necessarily one system, but all in one room, would be to have two different pairs of front, left, and right speakers. You'd have one pair that you use for your surround sound, and then this other pair that you could use for two-channel only. The part where I think there was a disjoint between what Jose was saying and what I was attempting to say when we were discussing two-channel equipment is, to me, the difference in his system are his speakers. That's the big difference.
Yeah.
Not so much the electronics. I mean, he was going into detail about the vintage analog gear that he's using, and I have no doubt that some of that does affect the sound. I mean,
absolutely.
I would completely expect that it does.
Tubes too, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
Tubes in there as well.
Yeah, so I would completely.
A non-linear.
Yeah.
Device in this chain.
But where in the episode that he referenced in his original message, what I was talking about was more on the electronic side, because the question that was being asked by the listener when we went into the whole thing was whether it's worth going up to these much, much more expensive two-channel only, analog only preamps. That was the original question, or whether a $1,000 preamp from Emotiva could do the job just as well. And I was saying, yeah, that Emotiva is great, but I wouldn't even use that. I'd still stick with a digital AV receiver that can do other things like bass management and room correction, which none of these other ones can. So that is, if we have any disagreement at this point, that's where it is. I still don't think that going for super expensive, two-channel only, esoteric gear that very often doesn't have better components in it, it's just a price tag, that I will forever say not worth it. But if something really is genuinely doing something different, then you will hear that, and if you like it, then it makes sense, and it might not be appropriate for everything. So I really liked his reply. Like I said, I couldn't have even hoped for something this nice as a reply, so it was really cool.
Yeah, and honestly, speakers are where this difference is. The rest of the stuff probably is making a difference as well, the vintage gear, but again, all that vintage gear a lot of it could be used in his home theater anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really wanted to use it in there, he could use it in there, but he's chosen to put it with these other speakers, and the speakers are where that difference is coming from. I guarantee you that you can take all that gear and put them with those Polk speakers and put them in that two-channel setup, and he's not going to have that same imaging, same stereo experience.
And yeah, if you took a really good AV receiver and used it to power those Carver speakers, I don't think the difference would be nearly as large as swapping the speakers. So.
Oh God, no! Yeah, I would have to challenge Jose on that one. But we're probably going to have time in this podcast to do some of those review the reviews.
Will we now?
That's the theory. So we're going to try to do that. But to do that, we have to get going. So
yes, we do.
Going. All right. So first in news, let's talk about a couple of things. Of course, Denon announced their new flagship. I have a problem calling this a flagship because it doesn't feel very flagshipy to me. It's got a flagship price. No, man, it's only got 7 channels or 9. Was it 9 channels of amplification?
9 built-in amp channels.
No, it doesn't feel very flagshipy to me. But it's the AVRX 7200W, which of course now means wireless. They're going to run out of letters pretty soon. Both Efren and Infinite Gary had to immediately let us know about that because we might have missed it.
And yay, we heard from Infinite Gary. He was gone for like 3 weeks, so
I know.
I was getting worried.
I know. My gut.
But he's back.
Yeah. Maybe that Infinite baffled subwoofer finally crushed his spinal column or something. It's like, I've got fluid in my lungs. My doctor can't figure out why. It's like, have you showed them the subwoofers, Gary? Because maybe that's it. Anyways, okay. So let's talk about it. So basically, the 5200 is the one next down the line. But it's $1,000 less. This is a $3,000, right? 2,900, 2,999.
Yep, 2,999.
And the 5200 was at 199.99, so that's a pretty big difference. You get 32-bit DACs, multi-channel analog inputs. Yay. 10 watts channel more per amplifier power and a larger chassis with a different power section layout inside. The real news is that Denon has officially said that they will offer an optional hardware upgrade in spring 2015 to replace the HDMI board with one that can handle full bandwidth HDMI 2.0 with HDCP 2.2 copy protection, which means that it would be 100% compatible with everything that's going to be coming in the future. Right now, it's impossible to have that because there's just not the boards out there right now. It still tops out at playing 11 speakers simultaneously, even though you can physically connect 13 speakers to its pre-outs. And the optional upgrade to Aural 3D coding is still planned for December, and it still costs you $250. So I'm guessing this board, this HDMI thing, might have a cost associated with it. Maybe not.
I think it probably will, and I'm a little bit surprised that the X5200 can't. I mean, they haven't explicitly said that the X5200 will not ever have this HDMI upgrade available to it. Maybe it will, because they're based on the same platform. Both the 5200 and the 7200 are based on the same sort of design, and they're both built in Japan and that. So, yeah, I'm kind of hoping maybe the 5200 will get the upgrade as an option too. But
so anyway. Is 11 speakers simultaneously, does that include the subs? That doesn't include the subs.
No, right? No.
So we can have 7.
0.2.4.
0.2.4.
Or 9.2.2. Yep. It can be done. But
yeah.
No
so
9.2.4.
This is supposed to be a flagship, and it can't actually do everything that Dolby Atmos is capable of doing, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's why I don't think it's a flagship, and it doesn't feel very flagshipy to me. And plus, it's only a 7. I think there's a 9 in the future here.
Yes, I was kind of hoping maybe it could do 13 speakers simultaneously. Maybe it could do the 9.2.4 setup that I'm dreaming of for Atmos because I like my front wide speakers. But nope. So honestly, I'm not quite sure why you would buy this over the 5200. Like, either you really need multi-channel analog inputs, or you really, really think that 32-bit DACs are going to make some huge difference.
I kind of think that if you have to buy a receiver right now and you want to be future-proof, you have to buy this one.
Right, yeah.
That's it. That's it. So people say, well, what receiver, if I want to be future-proof, this is it. This is the only recommendation we can have right now, because it's the only one that has the possibility of a full bandwidth HDMI 2.0 and HDCP 2.2 copy protection. Therefore, this is it. But if you can wait a year, whatever's coming out after the 5200 is going to be probably compatible.
1 year from now, yeah. I did want to clarify because this.
Don't buy a receiver right now stands unless you have $3,000 burn a hole in your pocket.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I did want to clarify because this came up on the HT Guys podcast, the HTTV and Home Theater podcast. Somebody wrote in there saying, "Look, Onkyo has HDCP 2.2 already," and we're like, "Yeah, we know.
We know
they do because they exactly. Yeah, they advertise that they do, and it is only on one input, but it is not
HDMI 3
bandwidth.
Because 3."
Input 3, you're right.
I just don't know why it had to be 3. It doesn't make sense. Why not 1? It should be 1.
You would think.
It should be 1. It's got to be some layout thing inside. Anyways, okay, so Aereo, remember that thing that did the little quarter-size antennas? They're dead. Chapter 11, the looking for the future. I got the email and everything. Oh, we're going to hopefully, we're all dead. Everybody's out of a job, so sorry.
Yeah, I like that if you just go to their website, aereo.com, all it says is that letter saying we're filing for Chapter 11. So
what else are they going to do? They have no business model when they get shut down.
I do like that they titled their letter to their consumers "The Next Chapter." I'm like, there's a pun. The next chapter is Chapter 11.
It's Chapter 11, and that's the last chapter as well, because we are all going home. If you had stock in us, we are sorry. It is over. All right. Lastly, who sent us this? Did somebody send us this, or we just found it? You found it? I don't know.
Oh, I think it was just a thing that I saw on Twitter somewhere.
All right. An audio title is a what is it? Is it a streaming service?
Yeah, they're a streaming service, and they're saying that they are a lossless service. Now, lossless, and they do use the words high fidelity and lossless somewhat interchangeably. It is CD quality. So what they're giving you is uncompressed CD quality. So this is not high-res 9624. This is 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, but uncompressed. So no MP3, no AAC compression. That's what they're talking about.
And if you go to their website, you can take a test, and if you can hear the difference between if you can pick out the CD quality versus the file size compressed one 5 times in a row, then they'll give you a free 14-day trial. If not, they'll give you a free 7-day trial just for showing up. So, whatever. I did it right before this. I was using the V-Moda M100 crossfades or whatever. I was like, I can't hear crap. So I took these off and I put on the Oppo PM2, the planar ones. I just hooked into my audio output on my laptop, which is most of the time. So I didn't use the DAC because I was in a different room and I didn't feel like lugging everything over there. I only got 3 out of 5. So
yeah, so I forgot to do this until right before the podcast started, so I quickly tried to do this wearing the V-Modas and just the headphone jack out of my laptop, and I got 4 out of 5. Yeah,
so basically guessing.
Yeah.
At that point,
it's not statistically significant.
We'd have to do 20 tests, and you have to get 19 right in order for any sort of significance, and that's only if like 100 and something people did it and all got that. So not really.
I'm not going to say like I heard no difference at all, though. I did hear some difference.
I did hear some difference. I just can't always tell whether or not it was a good or bad difference. I mean, just whatever. And I hated the tracks. Daft Punk or something. I was like, what? Why am I listening to this? All right. All right.
We'll put the link up there. So
yeah, we will, so you can test it out and tell us how stupid we are. I bet Jose will hear it.
Well, if you did it in more than the 5-minute span that I had to do it, maybe you'll get them all.
I think I took I don't think I took 5 minutes to do it. I was like, that sounds. I think it's that one.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one. Load faster. Yeah, this one. Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't really paying much attention. All right. Anyways, but honestly, whatever. Jared, we posted Jared last week. We talked about Jared's home theater, how good it looked. We posted it up on the listener systems on Facebook. So if you head over there, and you can take a look at that. A lot of people have been commenting on it, how much they like it, how good it looks. It's pretty nice what he's done. He's done a lot of DIY stuff. He's also been a good value shopper. So he really did a really good job. So take a look at it and give yourself some ideas. and you can see that his screen is awfully big on that front wall, and he still manages to get some speakers in front of it. So there you go.
No, what I really love is that he had sent in pictures previously with his original system, where he had spent a grand total of $500, and yet.
Oh, is it that guy?
It is, yep. And yet he still had a projector and the 7 speakers or 6 speakers I think at the time when he first started, and 3 subwoofers that he had coupled together from various home theater in boxes.
Oh, I remember that guy. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's great being able to see those pictures from then to now. And it's like, whoa, you wouldn't even recognize it as being the same room or the same gear. I mean, he has swapped out a lot of gear. So.
Yeah, I did. Good job, Jared. He also sent us an update. Let us know that the popular, especially after last week, Epson 8350 front projector is on sale over at Amazon for $888. And the competing Ben QHT 1075 is also on sale for $849. Under 850.
Yeah, it's like 848 something or other, yeah.
48. So, anyways, there you go. If you're looking for a projector under a grand, those are the two you can get. You can get them from Amazon, or you can go search accessories for less in other places and see what you can find. All right, are ready to get this thing started?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's go through what we'll be talking about, and then we'll talk about it, and hopefully we'll get to some reviews by the end. Okay? First, we got Steve, who wants to go over the correct crossover settings for a system. Greg wants to know the differences between 7.2 and 5.2.2. That hurts my brain. And it's a question about corner bass traps. Jason asked what the deal is with his new TVs having pop-up ads built into them. Oh, crap. How did I miss that question? You're going to answer that one.
Okay.
I swear I completely missed it. I remember reading it the first time I read this, and then when I was doing, I'm sorry. I've never heard of that. Pop-up ads? Okay, well, anyways, we will get to that when Rob informs us of what it is later. Nick has a large basement, is trying to figure out where to put his home theater. And Buddy, which we talked about a second ago, asked how he can set up a new AV receiver being blind. Seems challenging. Ian has a couple more battery backup UPS questions. Steve thinks Tom is now the marriage whisperer. Tell my wife, dude. She's pretty much I'm the marriage shouter, and I suck at it. And has a couple of more projector questions. She might be in the other room listening to this right now. I don't know. She's home. She's got the week.
Soundproof the theater, yeah.
No, I mean she could be watching the YouTube stream as we speak. Mike wants to know where to find good deals in Canada. Ask the right person, which is Rob. And has a mini rant about boom boxes. Just mini. Is it lastly? Yep. Lastly, Matt H has his new AVR X4000. Yay! And now he's pondering speakers and subwoofer placement. And that's a long question to put at the very end. All right.
It came in today. So.
Did it really? Usually the questions that come in today don't make it on the podcast, but they did this time. All right, here we go. Nope, that's not the first question. There we go. Steve would like us to define what the LPF or LFE and LFE plus main versus LFE settings mean in his AV receiver setup menu. He has all of his speakers set to an 80 hertz crossover, and he has set the LPF for LFE to 80 hertz as well. Is all of that correct? And should he use the LFE or the LFE plus main setting?
Yep. Fair enough to be confused by that silliness.
There is a lot of no. The thing is I did because I always get these things all confused and twisted around in my head too. I almost always have to Google this because I know that I talk about stuff all the time, but that's just an alphabet soup that I just can't keep straight. So LFE is low frequency effects. Is that right?
Low frequency effects. That is literally the 0.1 in like when you say 5.1 or 7.1. That 0.1 is the LFE channel.
That's the track that's the channel that's the information that's meant solely for the subwoofer. Okay?
Yeah, it is its own separate channel. It contains only bass. So that's what it is.
It's my favorite channel. The LPF is a low pass filter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is the filter that they use to pass. I'm gonna have to think. Just the low. It filter out the top stuff and they let the low stuff pass. So this would be bass.
Yep.
On
if you insert,
the full range.
If you insert the word can, you can remember. If you say low can pass or high can pass, then you can remember what that filter is doing. So this is a low can pass filter, meaning high cannot pass.
That's right. So he's got a speaker. Steve's got a speaker set to 80 hertz crossover. I 100% support that decision.
as long as they can play that low. We're
which we're assuming they can.
somewhat assuming that they can. Not all speakers can. So if you are
That's
noticing that if you play a sweep through any given speaker and it makes the nice sound and then the sound disappears for a tiny little bit in between where the speaker cuts off and the subwoofer comes back in, then you need to set that higher. But other than that, 80 is almost always the right choice.
Now, I have to admit that I've never seen LPF for LFE. I've only ever seen LFE in main and LFE. I've never seen LPF for LFE. Is that like a specific receiver that has that? Is that Onkyo or something like
No,
that?
I mean, Onkyo definitely has it. I've certainly seen that setting, although come to think of it, I'm not sure if it might have been only an Onkyo. In any case, it is its own separate thing. And
So I don't know what that is then. I know
yeah.
LFE plus main means you're sending
Well, we
LFE.
should get to that one in a second. We should
All right, go ahead, go.
define this LPF for LFE. So the low pass filter for LFE is, you have to remember that the LFE, the low frequency effects channel, is its own separate channel. So if you can have that in your mind, then what we're doing is saying how high do we allow that channel to play before we start rolling it off and making it go quieter and quieter. So it isn't at all the same thing as your speaker to subwoofer crossover. The speaker to subwoofer crossover is all being handled by wherever you set the crossover for the speakers. You set your speakers to small, wherever you put the crossover, that is handling that transition between your speakers and your subwoofer. The low pass filter for the LFE is only affecting that dedicated 0.1 channel. And the default for it out of the box is going to be 120 hertz, and you should leave it there. You should not adjust it. I don't know why they even let you adjust it. There's no point in adjusting it because it is its own separate channel, and when they're making the soundtrack, if for whatever reason, the thing about that low frequency effects channel, that 0.1 channel, in movies, it is allowed to play as much as 10 decibels louder than any other channel. So every other channel, all of your other speakers, they max out at 105 decibels. That's as loud as they can go. That LFE channel is allowed to play as loud as 115 decibels. So it has a different maximum. So if the sound mixer said, you know what, I want to put a crazy loud 100 hertz tone in that LFE channel. Literally no other channel is allowed to play that loud, but I'm going to make this 100 hertz tone in the LFE channel 115 decibels. If you've gone and set the low pass filter somewhere other than the default of 120 hertz, then technically you're not hearing it exactly the way the sound mixer intended for you to hear it. So I don't know why it's even there. Just leave it at the default of 120.
I swear I've never seen it. It's got to be an Onkyo thing. I've never seen
It's
that.
a very confusing thing, and
It's
no
not
point
Yamaha
in
for
it
sure.
being
I've never seen it there. I'll tell you next week whether or not it's in this Denon because I will be looking for it. So
Yes.
yeah. So the LFE plus main versus the LFE setting is one
It's
that's
different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So
This one is?
yeah, well, yeah, the LFE versus LFE plus mains, different manufacturers use it to do slightly different things sometimes.
You're gonna have to read your manual, dude. Do we know what receiver he's got? We don't, do we?
I don't. I'm guessing it's an Onkyo because he made
Yeah.
no mention of a small or large setting, and I know Onkyos don't do that. Onkyos definitely have the LPF for LFE, so I'm betting it's an Onkyo.
Yeah. Okay. So
Or
you
an
know
Integra.
Onkyos because generally when I think of LFE, LFE means whatever that crossover is, everything's going to go to the sub for all your speakers. But when you say LFE plus main, that means everything below that is going to go to the subwoofer and the mains.
Right.
So your front, left, and right speakers. So that means that basically you're defeating the crossover on your front speakers. And are you also sending the LFE channel to your front speakers as well?
Yeah, see, this is this is why it's so confusing because there are many receivers where that option is grayed out unless you have sent your front, left, and right speakers to full band, full range, or large.
Yeah.
Right. So unless they're set to be able to accept all frequencies, oftentimes that LFE plus mains option is just grayed out. You can't even select it. In which case, great, that's what you want. You don't want to be doubling up your bass like that. But there are some manufacturers that, for whatever reason, even if you set your front, left, and right speakers to small, you still have the option of choosing this LFE plus mains setting, which makes very little sense. So the whole idea of it is whatever bass is being bass managed. So let's say you've set your setter and your surrounds to an 80 hertz crossover. All that bass below 80 hertz has to get sent somewhere else. Where is it being sent? If you set the subwoofer output to just LFE, then that means that bass is getting sent to just the subwoofer channel. If you set it to LFE plus mains, then all of that managed bass is getting sent to both the subwoofer and the main speakers. But the other side of it is if you have your main speakers set to large or full band or full range or wherever they've titled it, what that usually means is if there's some low bass in the actual front left or right speaker channel, now that does not get played by the subwoofer because you've set your front speakers to large. So anything that's in that channel gets played there. In that case, if you set it to LFE plus mains, then whatever the manufacturer chose, because we don't know what frequency they chose, but at some arbitrary frequency they decided we're going to double up this bass, and some of that bass is going to come from both the front main speakers and the subwoofer now. Okay, so if you want the clean and easy solution, always set your speakers to small, all of them. Always give all of your speakers a crossover. Never set any of them to large or full band. And always set your subwoofer to just LFE, never LFE plus mains. And then we're done.
It's really confusing, too, because, first of all, you're right. There's a manufacturer will have different sort of ways of dealing with it. But, like, when I did a search, because I always have to look up with LFE plus main or LFE, I usually have it right in my mind, but I want to make sure, so I usually Google it. So when I Googled it, I come across thread after thread of people saying, "Well, if your speakers are large, you might as well get more bass out of them." That's just absolutely the wrong thing to do, and we've talked about it over and over again in this podcast. I don't want to really rehash it, but the idea is if first of all, your speakers aren't subwoofers. Start there. Second of all, you did not put your subwoofers right next to or right underneath your speakers for a reason. You put them in a different place because that's where bass sounds best. And if you're doubling up your bass through your speakers, well, you've just put them in a non-optimal place, and you're screwing up the bass that you're getting from your subs. Let your subs do what your subs supposed to do. Let your speakers do what your speakers supposed to do. And don't worry about the fact that you paid for a floor-standing speaker and you're not using every single frequency that it can possibly fart out at you. Now, do we want to beat that anymore, or is that good enough?
I hope that is clear enough. So let's head on.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so Greg would like to describe the differences between a 7.2 channel setup as a 5.1 with two front height speakers and an Atmos 5.2.2 setup.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Okay. Well, technically, I guess a 5.2.2 setup. Okay, hold on a second here. Something's wrong here anyways. The 7.2 channel setup is 5.1 with two front height speakers.
Right.
Right? And an Atmos setup. So a 7.2 channel, so he's talking about 5.2 with two height speakers, front height speakers, right?
Yeah.
That can't be an Atmos setup though, right? Can't that be an Atmos setup? That's pretty close.
It can. Yeah.
But an Atmos setup, that two, okay, let's first 5 speakers all the way around you. Those speakers they have to be close to the ground. They have to be like ear level for Atmos. Okay. In a normal setup, the ones that are up front are going to be ear level, or maybe lower for the center channel, or a little higher for the center channel, and the rear speakers are going to be elevated. That's the way that we've always done it. But Atmos decided that's not how we do it anymore. I don't know why you were doing it that way, because we've been playing this for 100 years. Shut up. So with Atmos, they're going to be all at ear level. With normal setup, the rear channels are going to be elevated. Okay. Now, with Atmos, you could use those height speakers as your whatever your point 2 is. So 5.2.2, it's 5 speakers around you, 2 subwoofers, and 2 speakers somewhere in the vicinity of the ceiling. Okay. So if you use the heights channels, they may conform to where one of the places that Atmos might say, or they might have to be closer to you, or right above your head, sort of thing. But that's sort of the difference. That's the only differences I can think of.
Yeah, in terms of speaker setup, so the regular 5.1, you got your front left, your front right, your center, all at ear level, your surround left, your surround right, either directly beside you or slightly behind you, and then elevated 2 to 3 feet above your head. There's your 5. Your 2 subwoofers, and then 2 height channels. Now, the placement of those front height channels when you're doing something like Dolby Pro Logic 2Z or Odyssey DSX or DTS Neo X, All of them kind of vary. Yamaha front present speakers would fall into that too. They all kind of vary on where exactly they say to place the speakers, but it's basically somewhere about 30 to 45 degrees vertically above your front left and right speakers, and then most of them have them a little bit wider than your front left and right speakers as well. Now in Atmos, the height speakers or the top speakers are right in line with your front left and right speakers. So you're just drawing a line straight up from where your front left and right speakers are. And though that 5.2, the extra 0.2, could be anywhere between 30 degrees to 90 degrees vertically. So anywhere in that range, it could be front, top middle. That's what your extra 0.2 could be. Atmos, Dolby would, if you're doing a 5.2.2 setup, they would recommend that you actually have top middle speakers. So they would have those two speakers directly overhead, 90 degrees straight up overhead, but in line with your front left and right speakers. But they could be front height speakers as low as only 30 degrees elevation above the front. So that's the speaker setup. But the other side of it is the signal itself. Because if we're saying that you have a 7.2 speaker system that happens to be 5.1 or 5.2 with front height channels, then that means you're using Dolby Pro Logic 2Z or DTS Neo X or Odyssey DSX or Yamaha front presence. And all of those systems, none of them, absolutely none of them, have discrete channels for the front height speakers. The front height speaker sound is being derived out of a regular 5.1 or regular 7.1 soundtrack. It's guessing, it's making it up. But in Atmos, if it's an actual Atmos soundtrack, then those sounds could be discrete. The Dolby Atmos renderer will be looking at the Atmos soundtrack and saying, hey, these sounds are supposed to come from overhead. And it will actually discretely play those sounds from your extra 0.2 at the very end there speakers. So the signal is different as well. And I hope that makes it clear what the differences are.
Yeah, so his follow-up to that is, if we had to choose one or the other, which one would you pick and why? Well, let's let you go first, since you actually have interest in someday having a Dolby Atmos. So.
Yeah, I would choose my extra 0.2 at the end of Atmos there to be front height speakers. My reasoning simply being I want to be able to use as many different formats on a whim as I can, and the front height speakers are pretty universal. So no matter what expansion program I'm using, or if I'm using Atmos, or if I'm in the future using Oro 3D, all of them can make use of front height speakers. So to me, it makes sense to just, those are the ones I'm going to go for, because everything can use them.
That's pretty. I'm actually surprised. I thought you might actually go for the ones that were overhead, but yeah, I agree. It's only because why pick something that's only why choose one format over the other when DTS hasn't even come out and Oro 3D really hasn't come out, and frankly, neither has Atmos. So there's just there's not a lot of stuff out there for any of it. So why choose? Put the height channels up. Stick with those for now. And if in the future you're like, oh, well, I really, Atmos is the only one that's got stuff coming out, maybe I'll put some over my head, well, then you can either move them or put them above your head.
Yeah, because you could install top middle speakers or top rear speakers or rear height speakers in addition to those front heights, and now you'd have 5.1.4. Which Atmos could use and nothing else could really use, but Atmos could use that. So if you really want those really overhead sounds and not just front height sounds, then you just add 2 more speakers and go 5.1.4.
Yeah. All right. So next, when shopping for corner bass traps. Now let's just define that real quick. Bass trapping is when you use some sort of absorptive panel or absorptive material to absorb some of the bass energy that's in your room. We often put these in corners, and if you take a corner trap, which was not usually, but can be triangular in nature, or you just basically stuff a bunch of this rigid fiberglass board or rock wool board into cut it into triangles and put it in the corner, then put a frame over it with a nice little covering. Then you're done. That sort of thing. You put that in the corner, you stack it floor to ceiling. So Greg's asking, when shopping for corner bass traps, do they need to go floor to ceiling, or can a 4-foot panel get the job done? If so, would it be centered at ear height or positioned in the corner in some other way? With bass, the way I always think of it is you got to think about the fact that you're trying to get as many reflections as possible. Mm-hmm. The reflections are happening from things bouncing off of things. So if in a corner, you've got two walls, right, on either side, right, and then you get the bounce from one wall. So let's say that it comes in at an angle, it bounces, it goes through the panel, hits the wall, bounces off the wall, goes to the other wall, through the panel still,
Mm-hmm.
hits that wall, bounces again through the panel, and comes back out again. Okay, all the time it spends inside of that panel, it's being that energy is being dissipated into heat. Okay, and the base is being reduced. The amount of base is being reduced. So, would you want to center that on your wall? Well, you've now just limited yourself to two corners, to two walls, two places.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why do that when there's a floor and the ceiling that you can put these things on? So if you can't go floor to ceiling, then you need to put it on the floor where you're going to have a floor to bounce off of as well. So it bounces, to the wall, down to the floor, back up to the other wall, and then back out again or something. All the while being having some of that energy being dissipated into heat, or stick it on the ceiling, which I don't know. That seems a little weird. But if you mount it to your ceiling, then you could mount it to your ceiling that way.
Yep, I have nothing really more to add to that. You're just trying to cover as many surfaces as you can, so get it. If you're using a 4-foot panel, and you absolutely can use a 4-foot panel, you do not have to have it go floor to ceiling, but just either have it as low as possible or as high as possible, not centered, because we're not worried about directionality with base. This isn't like using an absorbing panel or a diffusing panel at your first reflection points. Those you want to have at ear level, because those are dealing with directional sounds, higher frequency sounds, mid-range and treble sounds. So those do need to be centered at ear level if you can. But bass, omnidirectional, going everywhere in the room that it can go, including vertically. So you just want to cover as much surface area as you possibly can with any given bass trap.
Yeah. All right. Jason has been reading several TV reviews lately, and he's seen them mention that some of the newest TVs have pop-up ads. Since he hasn't seen them in person, how do these pop-up ads actually manifest themselves? Do they literally pop up at random over whatever you're watching? Regardless, he thinks whoever came up with the idea shouldn't be allowed to watch anything other than VHS on a small tube TV. I think that if they work the way that they sound like they work, that person shouldn't be allowed to live anymore. They should have been shot and somehow flogged for this terrible, terrible idea. Tell us what it is, Rob, because I honestly don't know.
Okay, so yeah, I am not 100% certain on this. I've mostly seen this actually on Panasonic. That's where I first come across this, but it easily could be on other manufacturers at this point as well. They are not just randomly popping up ads over whatever you're watching. They're not doing that. I've never seen that being the case. This is normally if you press menu or you press guide or you bring up your app selection, because this is always happening on smart TVs, because the way these ads are getting into your TV is via the internet. So if you do not connect an Ethernet cable and you do not connect to the Wi-Fi network, if you don't do those things, then you won't get the ads. Although you might still just get blank boxes that pop up where the ads would have been.
So is it like a in a specific box?
It's more like a banner ad than a pop-up ad. So this is basically whatever.
They should never have used the word pop-up, or he shouldn't have used.
Well,
whoever.
I think it's because they went along with pop-up menu, like Blu-ray players have a pop-up menu. So they're saying this is a pop-up ad. You press any button, whatever you want to do, whatever it was you wanted to bring up on your TV screen, there's going to be an ad there along with it. So, yeah, I mean, why is this allowed? I don't know why this is allowed. They have to subsidize the cost of their TV by showing you ads in addition, I guess. I mean, we pay subscriptions.
Honestly, if that's all it is, that doesn't bother me at all. They can put whatever they want up there.
I guess, but
that's part of. I don't know.
Like, I like it when, like, especially if I'm doing settings or something like that, I want as minimal a menu as I can possibly get, right? Because I want to see as much of the image as I can see while I'm making any adjustments in the menu. So if some stupid ad is taking up a portion of my screen and I can't make it go away while I'm making picture adjustments, that would really tick me off.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway. I'm not saying that's actually what's happening, but I do know for sure if you press menu or you especially if you bring up your app selection, then there will definitely be ads there, and that's what they're talking about.
Okay. All right. Nick is in the planning stages for a dedicated basement theater. His full basement is about 1,500 square feet. About 500 square feet of that is unfinished, and there's one closed-off bedroom next to the furnace. Oh, that's immaterial. That's about 22 feet by 11 feet. 11.5 feet, sorry. The remaining 700 or so square feet is a finished family room that is completely open. This is a basement. Sounds like a house. Nick wants 2 rows of seating and a large projection screen. If he uses a closed-off bedroom, he's a bit concerned because there are heating ducts taking up some of the ceiling space and the bulkhead on one side. That might end up limiting his screen space and make it tricky to fit an elevated second row of seating. If he uses the family room, he'll only be using a portion of it as a theater area. So the left side would have a wall, but the right side would be completely open. Plus, he'd have a much, much larger volume of air to pressurize. So Nick would like our thoughts on where he should plan his home theater. Honestly, without he didn't send us a picture, right? Because I'm not seeing a picture.
He didn't send us a picture. No.
Yeah. So I'm really wanting to say that he should do it in the room, the 22-foot room. I know it's going to be tight,
bedroom.
Second row of seats, but I've. I mean, how big are the people that are going to be sitting in that second row, and how often will they be there? That's the real question. Because can you put them on the back wall and just say that's for the people that aren't me? Because that's what I would do. 22 feet is going to be tight. But
that's not bad for the length. I mean, I'm actually more concerned about that 11.5 feet width.
Yeah, because that's on a big couch, that's for sure.
Yeah, even just a regular 3-seater couch, not like theater chairs where each seat has its own dedicated arm, but just a regular 3-seat couch. That's about all you could fit if you want to have any sort of walkway on either side, and even then it's a little bit squishy. So
you only need one side for a walkway. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but then you got one seat pushed right up against a wall. So
that person is not our favorite person, and that's what it is. That's what we have. that's what we have children for. Yeah. No. Yeah. And the reason I always sort of, because that sounds like a more rectangular space. And something that you can actually do something with, where you're able to close a door and you're not trying to pressurize a huge volume, and you're not dealing with all the acoustics of things bouncing around through other areas and then coming back like 2 seconds later or something and really messing everything up. For me, it would be my instinct to try to go towards that room that you can close off. Bulkheads don't bother me that much. I have a bulkhead that my projector, basically I mounted my projector to, and just to put a shelf up there, and that's fine. If you have a bulkhead, a natural bulkhead up there, that's a perfect place to hang a screen from. Then that's.
Well, I think it would be like it's on the side, right? So it's going along the length of his room.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. It's not going in the front.
Yeah. Now I don't think. He's saying that the bottom of that bulkhead would basically mean it has now a 7-foot ceiling height where the bulkhead is, and then the regular ceiling is 8 feet. So I don't foresee that being a problem for your screen. And then for that second row of seating, it's not like it covers the entire row of seating, and your riser is only going to be about 8 inches. So you are now below the standard 6-foot 8-inch height. That would be any door clearance or that, but it's only a portion of the room. So as far as any sort of code goes, I think you're fine. I don't think you have any issues there, because it's not like the entire ceiling is below 6'8". So yeah, I have a couple of questions for Nick. One, what's going on in that unfinished part of your basement?
Yeah, how big is that?
500 square feet. That's pretty large.
That would work. Maybe you could do something with that.
Now, I don't know. Maybe there's already a rough-in bathroom in there. Maybe it's partly a cold room. I don't know. So maybe he can't, finish that and use that. But I'm kind of wondering what's going on over there. And then he said he's willing to do like a little bit of construction, like with this bedroom, to actually get that 25-foot length or 22-foot length. He might have to sort of move a wall back or something like that. I don't know. I'm assuming he wants to keep that entire space of the family room open, because he didn't mention anything about possibly constructing walls. To close off a space. So, but that's all assumption on my part. So that's why I'd like to ask, because I mean, if this is because he was saying even if he puts it in the family room, he has free reign. He can light control it. He can put up acoustic panels. He can do all this stuff. So I'm like, can you build a couple walls? Because, I mean, these are not load-bearing walls. These are real simple walls that you can throw up. It's not going to be a difficult build. So
everybody says that until they try to start constructing walls, and then think crazy.
These are literally just partition walls. There's nothing to them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Let's, you know what, Nick, you need to send us some sort of floor plan so we can see this thing, and then we can give you some more. From just what you told me, my instinct is to go with the the room
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
already
as far as the least amount of actually constructing anything, then there's your room. It's already
yeah
there, right?
yeah
Yeah. My one concern is because I did mention, put it in there because he mentioned it that it is right next to the furnace slash utility room. I'm a little bit concerned about soundproofing because some furnaces are very noisy,
yeah
others are very quiet. So I don't know what he has, but that might, sort of demand thinking a little bit about soundproofing, which gets you back to doing some amount of construction even in that already finished room.
yeah.
So yeah, it's hard for us to say here's what you absolutely should do, but hopefully
Not
if you
with the
get back
information that
to
you
us,
provided.
yeah,
Yeah
with a floor plan and some answers to what we've asked here, we can help you further.
yeah. All right, let's talk about Buddy.
Hmm.
All right, so Buddy emailed us. I think he just emailed me. He didn't email you, did he?
No, you forwarded it to me.
Yeah. So Buddy emailed me, and somehow I recognized that I didn't get to Rob, and I forwarded it to Rob. But I started reading his email, and he's completely blind. So he was asking about how to set up a receiver. How to buy a new receiver and set up a new receiver uh, with his disability. And I'm like, I don't have a clue how to even get her. I don't even know how blind people get around. I mean, I know that they do. I see them doing it, and I'm just like flabbergasted. I'm so impressed that can be a thing that people can do. It just amazes me that works. And so the first thing I thought was of Michael. And I forwarded the email to you because I didn't remember which Michael was which, and I know that you had shared the emails with him,
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, let's try to connect these two guys up and see." Because Michael's visually impaired, he's asked us a bunch of questions. He's actually donated to the podcast way more than he ever should have, as far as I'm concerned. Because he doesn't need to. You don't need to donate that much as he has, as frequently as he has, at least. And so, Buddy. Basically, Rob sent the email out to forwarding the question to Michael, and Michael came back with a very, very long and detailed response. The gist of it is that you need somebody sighted to help you out at the very beginning. You absolutely. You got to. I mean, like all of these, like a lot of the newer receivers, the Denons and stuff like that, they're all IP controllable. And once you get into them via the IP, via your computer, that does all the programs that he uses already to hear what's on the screen. All those things can be used. And in the apps as well can be used. But to get all that, just like connecting up everything, you need somebody sighted to help you out with that part of it.
Yeah, the connections on the back, I'm not sure how, like if you were just completely doing this on your own and you were blind, I don't know how you would get around just making sure all the connections are in the right place, because unfortunately there isn't even such a thing as like a standard pattern to how the speaker binding posts are laid out, right? Some of them do it where the center channel is right in the middle of all the speaker binding posts, and some have the center channel up and off to the right or way over to the left, or they have the front, left, and right speakers on opposite ends of the receiver, or they have them both together over on the left. Like there's no standardization there, so if you really cannot see what's there, somebody has to help you out just for that stuff, if nothing else.
Yeah. So essentially, I don't even really have it open. I need to.
Sure. Well, I can go through what Michael said, because I mean, Buddy is not going to be the only person who's visually impaired who's listening to this podcast. So hopefully this might help some other folks as well. Michael's looked into this a lot, and I've looked into it a little bit to try and bounce ideas off, back and forth with Michael. So basically, right now, Denon and Marantz and Yamaha. They all have quite good apps. Now, Michael prefers using an iPhone because the iPhone already has quite a few accessibility features built right into its OS. He doesn't have a lot of personal experience with Android. We're not saying Android can't be used. He's just saying iOS makes it fairly easy, so he's kind of preferring that. But they definitely have apps for iPhones, iOS devices, and those apps are pretty good and can do a lot of the basic settings, as well as a good way of controlling the receiver once you already have it all set up. So instead of literally feeling around on the hard button remote that came with it, you can use the app, the Denon Control app, or the Marantz Control app, or the Yamaha Control app to actually control things. Now, Denon and Marantz, there's a third-party programmer who got a hold of it and created a program called DE Remote, and you can get that right at deremote.com. And that's a really cool program because it actually lets you do things that the Denon Control app for iOS doesn't do, like setting up Odyssey. The Odyssey setup is not part of those regular mobile apps. It is part of the DE Remote app. And Michael's actually talked to the fellow who made that program, and that guy's been very receptive to suggestions on things that can be improved and things that can be changed. So great that that's there. So it seems like Denon Marantz, probably your safest bet as far as brands go. They have that support, and they definitely, the newer models, have the IP control as well. But you'll need to first get that IP address, and I don't know how you would do that without someone cited helping you to
I
at least
was
tell you
looking
the
at,
IP
I
address.
actually was looking into that as well because
Mm-hmm.
mine's IP controllable, and I was like, well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not in the home theater right now, but I'd already like to kind of start playing with it. So I
Right.
Googled it, and basically they're like, turn it on, go to the
Yeah.
setup menu, and then look to see what IP address it gives you,
Yeah,
and then
because
plug
it's going to
that
be
into your.
assigned by your router. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, Michael was saying he needs someone sighted to help him in that very initial stage to at least get the IP address and help with the physical connections on the back. Now, all of that brings me to one other thought, which is, would you possibly be okay with doing something like a sound bar instead? Because that could be just to put it simply, if you are alone in this and you don't have someone sighted who's going to help you set it up, a sound bar could be a much easier path to have that all set up. I certainly like the Vizio ones, although the Vizio remote, you basically have to be able to see it because they really cut down on the number of buttons on the physical remote, and the way you control things is by scrolling through a little menu on a little LCD screen on the remote itself. So I don't know how you would do that without being able to see it. There's no iOS app or something you can set up to do the same thing. So in this case, I might like the Sony sound bars. The Sony sound bars that are out right now, quite nice sound quality. I'm not going to say they're the best thing ever, but quite nice sound quality, very easy to set up. They have HDMI inputs and an HDMI output that can just pass everything along to your TV. So, if you really are on your own doing this, I might kind of recommend looking at maybe a Sony soundbar instead. Just
Okay.
from a practical standpoint.
I don't.
Well, I know.
If this is this podcast, he is not going to be satisfied with the sound bar. But okay, I guess that is an option.
Well, I mean, it's going to be better than literally not having any sound coming out of an AV
If you
receiver.
really don't have somebody to help you set this up, dude, let us know and let us know where you are, and we'll see. I mean, I know if you're around here, I'll come to your house and help you set it up. I don't care. And Rob's already proven that he's done that in the past, so
Yep.
that's definitely a possibility. So yeah, so the DE remote, Michael suggested, if you're taking your laptop to the or your computer or whatever to the store when you're buying it, you can start doing some setup there or getting some things kind of figured out there.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. So it's a really long email, and if anybody is very, very interested in some of these suggestions, let us know. We'll happily forward it to you. But basically, it comes down to using these new, and that's one of the great things about these newer receivers and stuff is that there is just the accessibility is so much better because of the ability to be online. It's all networked. It's everything else. So you can access them in a lot of different ways. Whereas before it was just their remote and that little screen, and that was
Yep.
hard for people who have 20/20 vision to deal with. God help you if you didn't.
Yeah, plenty
So,
of people have been confused by the back of an AV receiver panel when they can see it. So,
yeah, I've been to my parents 3 times in the last 2 days to go over there. They're like, something's not working. I'm like, okay. I'm like, the printer's not working. I'm like, okay. I'm like, is it on the network? They're like, what? Yeah. What do you mean? I'm like, well, it's a network computer. Did you connect it to the network? No. No. I'm like, what did you just think proximity was going to do it? No. Okay. So I'm not going to give my dad a hard time because he might listen. All right. So yeah, it got them going over there pretty good. But yes, let us know, buddy, if you need any more help. Hopefully, Michael helped you out. And we're happy to be part of that. Ian, thanks us for discussing this battery backup UPS question last week, and he's ordered the APC J25B. That's the mid-range cheaper one, right? Yes.
Yep.
He'd also like to know if it's okay to stack his processor on top of the the J25B. Does the J25B generate much heat? Do you have one of those?
I do.
Is
I
it
have
hot?
one of the J25Bs. It certainly does not get hot. It doesn't stay ice cold or anything. It generates some amount of heat, but it definitely does not get like
He's
toasty
just
hot
got
or
a
anything like
processor,
that.
right? It's just he's not
Yeah.
talking about a receiver. Processors don't generate much heat either.
Well,
So
they can because if it's an Integra and it has that
that's
video
true.
processor thing in
Jeez.
there, it can get
We
cooking
always
hot.
got to have the Onkyo caveat. But yes, yeah, I have my battery backups underneath my APC, which is just a
Hmm.
voltage regulator and all that stuff. And none of that stuff ever gets all that warm, and they're stacked on top of each other. I don't even think that battery backup one can breathe at all, and it doesn't get hot. So, uh, you know, I don't.
Yes, I guess to cover my butt, I would have to say whatever it states in the manual as far
Yeah,
as
me
whatever
too.
clearance is allowed, then you should follow that rules. But let's see, how can I say this without getting sued? If you do it, I would not be screaming at you to not stack things on top of it. I think I'm allowed to say that. Yeah, okay. I
Hey,
think I
I
covered
remember when
myself.
I first got my Xbox 360, I had an equipment cabinet that had fans in it and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that, and the door, and I put the Xbox 360 at the bottom of the cabinet, and I couldn't figure out why all my gear was overheating. I was like, okay, and then I eventually took it out and put it on top, and all my gear problems went away.
Yes, there
So
are many
yes,
things where I would say do not stack anything on top of them. Separate sentence, the J25B is not among them. Yeah, so.
when connecting second class with connecting his projector to the J25B via a long extension cord pose any sort of problem? No.
No, I mean, as long as you're using a sufficient gauge extension cord, don't use something extremely skinny and don't use something that gets literally red hot. Get yourself a decent extension cord, maybe a 14 or 12 gauge type of thing, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's just use a yeah. Just with that one, you're not going to want to try to grab something that's just oh yeah, this is what I picked up at Walmart for a buck. You
I
know.
will mention we had our interview with the folks from Sanus. That's going quite a ways back, and we
Oh,
certainly haven't
that's
mentioned that interview as many times as we've mentioned some of the other interviews. But it was a good one. If you go back there and check it out, although the audio quality was unfortunately very poor on it, that was back before we figured out how to really record everyone's voice at once without it sounding not too so good. But anyway, lots of good information in that interview. And one of the cool things, they have an accessory over there. What is it? The ELM 805, I think, is the
yeah,
actual
that's
model
what it
number.
is. ELM 805, right? Is that
Yeah,
in-wall thing?
it is an in-wall thing. Yeah. So all this really is doing is it's giving you a plate. Then you run Romex from that one plate, which you'll position one plate near the battery backup, and you can plug a cord from the battery backup into this wall plate. Then you run regular Romex, regular 14.2 in-wall electrical wire from that one plate to the other plate, wherever you want your device to be, in this case, projector. So probably up on the ceiling or something like that, or on a back wall, and then you connect from that new plate into your projector, just like you would normally plug it in. So
Yep.
it is an extension cord. It's just a fancier looking one that runs regular Romex inside your walls instead of something
Yeah,
else
and
around
you
the
don't
wall.
have to be an electrician to install this thing. It's
No, although there might be some fishing of things through the
You will
wall.
have to fish stuff up walls and stuff like that, so
Yes.
that's going to be an issue. But if you can get up into your attic and you can drill a hole into
Right.
to the top board of your wall and
Mm-hmm.
fish it down two places, that's all you
Mm-hmm.
have to do. It is not brain surgery. I have done it, and I am
Mm-hmm.
terrified of electricity. So if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, so
Now,
that can make for a nice, clean looking install.
it's very nice. I 100%. That's what mine does. I'm 100% approve of that. Now, Steve. Last week he asked if he should buy a projector or a subwoofer first, given that his wife was more accepting of a projector. Tom said that was an easy decision, and now Steve remains happily married. Saving marriages left
That
and
is
right.
such sage advice,
It
Tom.
was. It was. It was. Don't cross the wife. That's. I don't know. I don't know if I came up with that advice, but that's what I said.
No
Anyway,
single person could have ever figured that out. It is experience driven only.
yes, that's right. That's right. Don't piss off the wife. I don't. That's advice I rarely follow, unfortunately. He just wants now. Okay, so anyways, he's shopping for a projector.
Not a
He wants
subwoofer.
he only wants a 106-inch 16 by 9 screen, no masking, no masking. Is
Yeah,
that
like
so?
masking panels or
Oh, okay, mask. I thought you were talking about the
no, like no masking panels or motorized or any of
any
that.
of
It's
that or
just
any
a
of that nonsense.
plain screen is all he wants.
All right. He was a 106-inch 16:9 screen. It's not going to have any fancy bells and whistles on that. He's going to be using it only at night and almost in pitch blackness. Wow.
Ray would definitely be jumping in here going, do you really mean pitch blackness? Because when Ray says pitch blackness, he means put your hand 5 inches in front of your face. Can you tell that there's a hand there? And if you can, you're not in pitch blackness.
Yeah.
So.
Ray does not approve of that. Will the Epson 8350 be good enough? Will the black bars it produces be distracting in gray? Should he spring for the UB model? Ooh, I don't know. What do you think, Rob? I don't know. What's distracting to you may not be distracting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I went and saw Interstellar in IMAX there last week, and
I heard that kind of sucked.
I liked it. It had some good ideas, and for being nearly 3 hours long, it actually held my attention the entire time. So, we're seeing in a gigantic screen. The visuals are fantastic. But I was noticing the IMAX theaters that are in my area, they are using the digital IMAX projectors. This isn't the LIMAX thing that happened where they just converted regular theaters and called it IMAX. This is actual IMAX theaters with actual IMAX digital projectors, but not the gigantic 70 millimeter film projectors that are barely in use in any IMAX theaters anymore. But I certainly noticed in there that, portions of that movie are in a wider aspect ratio, not filling the entire 4:3 IMAX screen, and those bars were absolutely not black. And actually, less of this movie takes place in space than you might imagine. It's a lot more planetary based. But there are definitely some scenes out in space where things are supposed to be pitch black, and that IMAX screen was absolutely not pitch black. Now, did that prevent me from enjoying the visuals of the movie? No. I could still watch the movie and enjoy what was going on. So will this 8350 in a, let's say you are actually having a pitch black room, will it produce absolute black? Will those black bars be truly black, or will they be gray? They'll be gray.
They'll be gray.
They'll be dark gray, but they will be gray. It will not be pitch black. The UB models like the 5030 UB from Epson or other things in that same sort of price range around the $2,000 to $2,500 mark, they will be blacker. Like
they will not be. He did not say black, did he?
Nope.
Say absolute black.
Nope, that Sony VPL HW40 that I like so much in that price range, it will be blacker than the 8350. It still will not be pitch black. Even the JVCs, even like the $11,000 JVCs, which have about the best black levels out there, are still not, if you are in a truly pitch black room, they are still not absolute black, nor is a Pioneer Kuro. That is not absolute black either.
That said,
they're darker.
There is light coming near that black, meaning if there is a screen and there is an image on that screen and it is light like a normal image would be, you're not going to, that contrast is going to be such that that blackness is not going to be as, that grayness is not going to be as gray. It's only really truly going to be noticeable when you're, like he's talking about with Interstellar, watching a dark screen, a dark image with the gray bars on the top and the bottom, or whatever, wherever they might be. That's when you're going to start going, oh, I can kind of see it. Or when it fades to black at the end of a movie, you're going to go, it fades to dark gray.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, are you watching a Pioneer Kuro right now? If you're watching a Pioneer Kuro right now and you're saying, God, even that isn't black, then I would say you want something even blacker than the 8350, because that's the type of picky person you are, and I wouldn't blame it, because that's the type of picky person I am. If you can stand watching an LCD TV, any LCD TV, unless it's some fantastic thing with full array local dimming that can turn to absolute black, if you can stand watching a regular LCD TV, then the 8350 will look fantastic to you. If you watch a regular LCD TV and you go, ooh, that's way too gray, then I go, you might be a person who would be willing to spend $2,000 to get even blacker. So, hopefully that's enough information to make a decision.
Yeah. Chances, I don't know. Chances are you're not gonna. It's not gonna. You're gonna see it and you're gonna go, oh yeah, it isn't black. And that is the amount of difference it's going to make in your life. And then you're going to go on to watch Pacific Rim and with your subwoofers, and you're not going to care what is black and what isn't. You're just going to worry about whether or not your house is going to self-destruct. All right, that's it. If it really is going to bother you, then it's going to bother you. And it's something that you should definitely worry about. 99% of the people out there, they're never going to see it. Never going to see it. Okay, never going to see it. You know what you do is you wait until you get your 8350. This is what you do. More marriage advice. You ready? Steve, laying it on you. More a marriage advice. Let me tell you what I did. This is what I did with my projector. Okay, I got a green blob on my projector. It's not very noticeable. You only kind of notice it in very, very dark sections, right? But I noticed it. It's just one little speck of dust I got on there when I was cleaning it one time. Drives me absolutely bonkers, right? I only can see it during very dark sections, right?
Okay.
My wife never noticed it. Never noticed it. Never noticed it. About 8 months, a year ago. No, it must have been. It's got to be 8 months. My parents lived with me for 8 months, so it must have been sometime in the last year and a half. I pointed it out to her. See that green blob right there? Yeah, that's a little speck of dust on the LCD. I can't. There's no way to clean that. I even looked into it. It's going to be there forever. She goes, "Oh," and that was it. That is all I said, Steve. That is all I said. I didn't say anything else. That's all I said.
Okay.
So I was talking about my screen, my projection screen, which is a daylight screen. I talked about this on the podcast. I did some research because it had been in storage for the 2-3 years I was gone. I got it back. I hung it up. I dropped it, and it was all weird and shiny and odd.
Yeah.
Did some research. The backing material they use on that, the PVC backing material or whatever it is, it was substandard, and it started leaching out this chemical, which you can wipe off with alcohol. Okay, but it comes back. Like what you have to do, you have to clean it once a year. It comes back. It's awful. All right. So I just the other day I was talking to my wife. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to try to figure out a way to get a new projection. We're gonna have to get a new projection screen eventually because that's just not gonna go. She goes, yeah, really could rather get a new projector and get rid of that green blob. I'm like, so Steve, get your 8350. Save yourself a little $888, right? Save yourself a little money. Start saving for those subwoofers. And when you're ready to upgrade your projector, you go, oh, man. As it fades to black, you go, wow, that's not really that black, is it? It's more kind of a gray. Don't say anything else. And wait. Wait, Steve. Wait. And it will come to you. I'm telling you, this is how marriage works, man. It's like hardcore negotiations. It is like you gotta really commit. Don't worry, Steve. I got your back, buddy. All right. Second question for Steve. Should you go? I hope to God my wife doesn't listen to this podcast. I would be in so much trouble. I will be glad I have set up my home theater again because I will need a couch upon which to sleep.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so second question. Should he go with a gray or a white screen? Would the combo of 8350 with the gray screen look just as good in the black levels as a UV model projector with a white screen? Rob already said what he thought last week, which is he doesn't like gray screens because it mixes up the color. So the question you ask yourself is, what's more important to you, accurate color or trying to eke out as much black level as possible out of your projector? And the answer you should be giving is accurate color. That is what you do. That's more important. Just
things looking things looking a little weird maybe 65-70% of the time versus things fading to absolute black. It's like you're going to be watching color and bright things with noticing that things are a little askew on the gray screen way more often than things fading to absolute black. So I completely vote for a white screen either way. As for would a gray screen make an 8350 look like a UB stands for ultra black, by the way, in Epson. That's an Epson thing. They label some of them as ultra black. Would a gray screen with an 8350 make it look just as dark as a UB projector on a white screen? Maybe, but then it's skewed the colors and made the white looks dingier. So overall, won't look the same. I would certainly vote for a UB with a white screen over because that everything's just better that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, Mike. I wanted to know if there's any Canadian equivalents for Accessories for Less and Parts Express, which are Parts Express and Accessory for Less are two go-to, and Monoprice. There are go-to places for like cheap stuff that's quality. And you have some things here.
Yes. So unfortunately, the real answer here is no. We don't have equivalents in Canada that are exactly like Accessories for Less because Accessories for Less is almost all refurbished gear. There's a handful of new products, but they're really about selling refurbished gear that they're getting directly from the manufacturers and selling with a full 1 year's manufacturer's warranty. It's not their warranty or some third party. It's from the manufacturers. We don't have the equivalent of that, as far as I know anyway. And we don't really have the same thing as Parts Express, where you can just order individual parts of speakers and kits and things like that, not a dedicated Canadian website to do that. Parts Express certainly delivers to Canada, but then we're paying the cross-border shipping. But if what you're looking for are some deals, then there are a couple of places I can mention. There is a site called electronicsforless.ca, and unlike Accessories for Less, the 4 in Electronics for Less is actually spelled out FOR. They didn't use a numeral 4 in place of that.
Because Canadians aren't that hip.
So that's electronicsforless.ca. Now they're just selling new regular retail products, but they often have good prices. They often are selling at discounts or run sales. And those are the same guys actually who run Sonic Boom Audio, who used to be the only way of getting SVS products in Canada, although now SVS sells directly within Canada through their own website. So I'm not exactly sure what's happened to Sonic Boom Audio, but same guys running both of those companies. There's another place called avgear.ca. Now, if you go to their website, avgear.ca, actually all they really have there are 2 links, one to their Amazon.ca storefront and one to their ebay.ca storefront. So they're actually using those other sites to handle all their transactions. They have refurbished gear sometimes, because they actually are a store. They have a physical location in Ontario as well. So anything that's returns or refurbished products that they can get their hands on, they will sell. So they're good. They have good prices. One that I didn't actually put on this list here, but Gibby's Electronics. They are often running sales. In fact, right now, Gibby's is running some fantastic sales on Denon AV receivers. So that's one place to look just for sales. But again, they're a regular retailer. And lastly, I'll mention justonecable.ca. That is basically as close as you're going to get to Monoprice in Canada, selling discounted cables and speaker wires and a few accessories and that. So those are the resources I use up here in Canada. But honestly, when I'm looking for deals that I can't get from there, I kind of hit eBay. That's where I've scrounged up a lot of things. Because plenty of sellers will ship to Canada, but aren't necessarily based here.
There you go. Am I still muted? No. Okay.
No, you're back.
All right. There you go. Yes, Canadian. Whatever. Just don't do what I had a friend of mine did this. He kind of got really hyped up on a specific brand of subwoofer, and he ordered them from America and paid a special thing to have them reshipped through and stuff, and then got them and hated them. What was his name?
Oh,
that
might have been Rob.
Yeah, it might have been.
Oh, it might have been me.
Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. So Mike was also wondering why boomboxes have basically never improved. He says take a boombox from 1984, 2004, 2014. They're all the same, crappy speakers. They have a new dust cap or cover. He's thinking the current high-res audio movement, while necessarily offering truly better sounding music, might at least get more people to think about audio quality. Do you think there will ever be a high-res boombox that actually genuinely sounds really good? There are such things, honestly. It's just you're not gonna. You generally don't find them at Best Buy.
Right.
Or Walmart or Target or any of those places. In fact, I was just, while Rob was prattling on about Canadian places, I reviewed a little ways back the Nano Hi-Fi PNH2200 portable desktop audio system. And it is a desktop audio system. You separate the speakers out, but you can attach them. And I think there was a handle or something. You could definitely pick it up and take it places. It wasn't the most convenient thing to take places, but it was possible, and you could boombox it around. And it had really decent sound. I think in my review it says great sound. So I guess for the price, which was the one I tested was the high end one, which is $479, but it starts at $350. They had pretty good sound. It had a subwoofer output. And in my pros I put technically portable, so that means it didn't have a handle. I mean, you can pick it up and carry anything, I suppose, but this there was all attached and that sort of thing. There was other issues with it too that you can see through the review, which I guess I will link up in the show notes. But yes, there are decent things out there. They're usually more expensive. They're usually not. They don't look like a boombox as much. But I don't really think that, honestly. What's getting people more interested in high-end audio and the stuff is not boom boxes or not the thought of boom boxes, not even home theater. What's getting people, I think, more interested in high-res audio is headphones, the headphone explosion. This headphone explosion has got people going, wow, earbuds blow. These are awful. And people realize that it can sound good, that headphones can sound good, and they can have a really good listening experience. That's what's going to get us from headphones is getting is bringing us this high res audio, and then hopefully that's going to translate into more people caring about their home theater and their speakers at home and that sort of thing. Boom boxes are way down the list because boom boxes do what? They go from place to place. And you know what I see people doing more than anything? I see people taking those cheap $25 iPhone little docks, right? I see people taking those and plugging them into a wall at outside someplace, and that's the new boombox.
Yeah, a Bluetooth speaker basically.
Not even Bluetooth. Well, not even Bluetooth. These are people I'm normally seeing like they have to put their.
Oh, it's an actual dock.
It's an actual dock. Yeah.
I've seen plenty of people just blasting music out of the built-in speaker in their phone.
Yeah. My favorite one is I saw it. This was right. When was this? I don't remember what it was. It was right before some holiday, and they had like somebody giving suggestions like, "Oh, take your iPhone and stick it in a glass cup, and wow, look how much better it sounds." I'm like, dude, fill the cup with water, and it please, because you were not making it sound better. You were just shut up.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that G Project G Boom, that $100 device that's pretty good for tailgating. It seems like that's what it's really meant for. But yeah, I mean, as far as does that sound like a high quality, hi-fi system in your home? Nope. Definitely doesn't sound like that. So I mean, he's got a point, right? If you want portable music out loud boombox style, I don't really know where I could point you to something that actually sounds hi-fi.
Well, think of think about all the stuff we talk about in this podcast all the time, right? Talk about your room and where to put room treatments and where to place your subwoofers and everything else, and then you're going to try to get good sound out of a boombox. It's just not possible. Think of where you're using it. You're outside in your backyard, or you're taking it to the beach or something like that. There's just no way that can have any bass. And
you're not going to get stereo separation unless you build a boombox that's 6 feet wide.
Or you can spread the speakers out, or you put your head on the ground right between the two speakers. So it might as well be a mono. And it's just not it's never going to be that great. If you want high res audio, then you need high, really good sound. You have to buy speakers and an amplifier of some sort. And whether that's a receiver or a desktop system or something, it doesn't make any difference. But boom boxes are just not meant. That's like saying why don't Yugos win Formula One races? Well, because the question doesn't even make sense. All right, Matt. Got his new AVR X4000, yay! We mentioned that, as we mentioned, he purchased the AVR X4000 from Accessory for Less, based on a recommendation. So far, he loves it. It's a lot more convenient being able to plug in all of his HDMI sources at once, though he isn't sure how much Odyssey Multi-Q XT32 and all that other stuff is doing right now, since he's only got 2 speakers connected. Yes, that would be a problem.
I did want to mention, because it's tough to tell exactly what Odyssey did, and what I'm about to say doesn't really tell you either. However, if you use that IP control, go into any regular web browser, plug in the IP address. Now, in the case of the X4000, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, so you will need to connect an Ethernet cable to your router. Between the router and the AVR X4000. But once you've done that...
Thank you for saying router, by the way, because even Canadians say router is not how anybody says it but you. But go on. I laughed my ass off when I got that email. The guy emails us and says, "I'm from Canada. I've never heard anybody call it router either. That's weird." I'm like, booyah!
It is routing things. R-O-U-T-E, routing things.
Routing things.
So,
it's not routing them.
What route did you take from your house to the store?
Which route do you take from your house to the store?
I know, but this is why it is a router, because we pronounce that word root.
Apparently not all of you.
But not everyone, no.
So far I have an N of 2, and 50% of you don't say it that way, so there you go. Canadians weigh in. Go on. Sorry.
Yes. So if you do that and you use the IP control, plugging in the IP address into your web browser, you can, at least in the case of the newest ones that I was looking at, in the case of Denon, if you go into the manual EQ, which is buried somewhere in the menus, you have to go through all the setup menus, but there is a thing there to do manual EQ. One of the options says copy. You can copy the curve that Odyssey created. Now, this will not genuinely show you what Odyssey did because the manual EQ is limited to some specific frequencies, and then you can just notch them up or down. But it tries to approximate the curve that Odyssey created. The Odyssey XT32 curve is going to be much more precise and have much, much finer gradation and control than the manual EQ will, but it can give you some rough idea of what it did. For example, you can just see, hey, it boosted up the highs, or it cut down this particular section or something like that. So if you want to get that idea of sort of maybe what it did, that's one way to do it. I haven't seen any other way to do it, so IP control.
Anyways, so that wasn't even a question. That was a statement of fact. So anyways, we're going on with that. First, his question is, now that he has a new AV receiver, he isn't sure if he should buy subwoofers first or fill out his system to 5 speakers. His current Klipsch RF3s are quite a few years old. Should he attempt to match current generation center and surrounds, or should he just start fresh with all new speakers? This requires a call to Klipsch. I mean, you could do an internet search on it, but I would just call them and say, their customer support, say, I have RF3s. I would like to get more Klipsch speakers, but I would like ones that sound the same as the ones I currently have. Do you have anything in your lineup that would be timbre matched for the speakers that I currently have? And then feel out the person that you're talking to figure out whether or not they're an idiot. Because they may not know what they're talking about, and they may just want to sell you speakers. Or they may actually know. And if they don't seem like they actually know, you say you do what I would do, which is hang up and say thank you, hang up, call back, and see if somebody else picks up the phone and ask again. You know, do it a couple of times until you feel pretty comfortable, or maybe get passed up the line to somebody who seems a little bit more knowledgeable. And then you can find out, at least from the horse's mouth, as much as you can, whether or not anything in the current Klipsch lineup will timbre match with the RF3s.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, just in my own anecdotal experience, the reference series that Klipsch has had, I mean, that's been around for ages. They've always had something called reference series. I don't recall huge changes in the character of the sound in the reference series. It's largely stayed that Klipsch sound. You know, when I hear it, I go, oh yeah, that's a Klipsch reference speaker. Like it's fairly characteristic in the way that it sounds, and they haven't really changed the secret sauce of that particular sound as far as I can remember. So I think it's certainly worth asking, and it's certainly worth checking out, and do a couple of auditions if that's what you want to do, because, you know, some of them I would say, yeah, you're not really going to find anything to match that. This, I'm like, yeah, some of the current stuff might match pretty darn well, so I think it's worth your while to at least check it out.
Yeah. Now, should he go with subwoofers first or fill out the surrounds in the center? My opinion is that you should fill out the speakers first. I know. A lot of people's jaws hit the ground just then, but it's true. I kind of think that you should save that subwoofer experience that for the
delayed gratification. That's what.
It's that there's going to be a massive difference between 2-channel and multi-channel, okay, in your home theater, all right? So there's going to be sounds all around you. That's amazing. Look at those sounds all around me. But, you know, it's going to sound pretty good, too, guys. The reference are probably pretty, they probably have a bit of bass, you know, and they play pretty loud. So, you know, it's going to be a pretty dynamic experience anyways, right? And you're going to be pretty happy with it. You're going to get the surrounds and go, wow, this is great. Oh, center, yay, look at that. It's actually coming directly from so I can sit in more places. But then you're going to get those subs and go, oh, my God, this is amazing. I feel the bass. Oh, Pacific Rim is so awesome. I can't even care how stupid the story is or why that guy has to be in it. But, so good, right? But if you go the other way around, you're going to get the subwoofers and go, oh, wow, listen to that bass. You're going to go, well, yeah, there's sound behind me now. That's pretty cool, I guess. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, and you've already said my exact reason for why I would vote for getting the subwoofers first.
No, you see us. But then you just end up going, oh, I got surrounds because, you know, you kind of surround.
I know. Well, because I'm going for the biggest difference you get for the amount of dollars spent. Because you can do a heck of a lot with 2 speakers. We know Jose would agree. You can do a heck of a lot with 2 speakers.
I agree, but I think that you should ramp it up. I think that not that you peak too early. You don't want to peak too early in this thing. I see.
His room is so huge. Do you know what a difference subwoofer's gonna make?
I know.
It's gonna be So okay.
That's why you should take baby steps, dude. Don't go up and back down again. Go up, up, up. Do that.
The great news here is that we are in total agreement in terms of what is going to happen. Now, Matt, you can decide how you want to play it out, because our reasoning is exactly the same.
We agree with each other. We
Yep.
just don't agree with that other thing.
Now, we should go back to should he keep those RF3s or completely ditch the RF3s and start with 5 brand new speakers?
Well, if he's got a massive room, Klipsch is a pretty good way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's no doubt about that. And it's gonna, in the long run, maybe make his life a little bit easier. Having speakers that are easy to drive that get real loud.
Mm-hmm.
If he's into home theater, if that's sort of his thing, then the Klipsch are well known as being great at home theater, quote unquote, great at home theater. But yeah, real dynamic sound, very easy to drive, very loud.
Mm-hmm.
If he's already happy with them, I'm loath to tell him to go buy something else.
Yeah, that's a real thing. If you're unhappy with the Klipsch RF3s, then of course you're going to want to upgrade anyway. Or maybe you're just at that point where like, I've had these for years and years, I just want to change. In which case, I can't tell you that's going to be the absolute best way to spend your money, but if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. And I will give you permission to do that because that's the type of thing I would do. But then again, this one isn't my money. So I will just say those Klipsch RF3s, they're good speakers. There is no reason why you must replace them. And if you already like the way that they sound, then I see no reason that you must replace them. And like I say, I think there's a good chance that you'll find something in the current Klipsch lineup that can match them in timbre quite well. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you are really looking to replace your speakers, well, then your life has got a lot more difficult because now you're going to have to go start auditioning stuff. And at that point, you need
Oodles
to
of choices.
and then come back to us and say, okay, I've listened to this, and these are the ones I liked and these are the ones I didn't. Which ones, do you have any other recommendations or which ones should I choose?
Mm-hmm.
Don't just say, oh, I had the Klipsch, but now I want something different. What should I buy? Yeah, throw a pebble in a Magnolia store and buy that. Now, looking at his basement setup, the left side of his theater is completely open, while a wall runs through the full length of the right side. Does this impact what type of speaker he should choose as his surrounds? What should he do in terms of placement for his left surround? He's okay with having it in the middle of the room on a stand if that's the right thing to do. Honestly, at this point, with the way things are going as far as surround is going to be looking like in the future, I think that we should now start always recommending people put things at ear level, surrounds at ear level.
I still just come back to the basic logic of if you care about more than one seat, and if you do listen with more than one person in the room, then I want the surrounds to be just high enough that you don't literally have one person's body blocking that sound from getting to the person at the other end of the couch. I still think they should be elevated enough to do that, and at least the guys at Oro agree, even if the guys at Dolby don't.
Well, the Dolby guys want it to be further back behind you, not right next to you, though, right?
Yeah.
They want it to be a little bit behind you, so it's shooting to the back of everybody's heads.
Yeah.
So, either go directly to the side and up, or if you can have it ear level, then slightly behind and facing you. In that case, you could use a stand, and that's sort of what I probably would do in this case. Because basically, if you're okay with putting a stand and you're not going to try to convince me that mounting it to a ceiling is a good idea, then that's the way to go. And if you're going to put on the stand, you're not going to be able to get it that high.
Yeah.
I mean, not and have it. God, I can only imagine what that stand would look like. So you're going to want to put it to the side, to kind of, a couple degrees behind you, 20, 30 degrees behind you, and then facing the couch sort of thing, and do the same thing on the wall on the other one.
Yeah.
Or get two stands, matching stands, and just put them both on stands.
Yeah, because in his email he was kind of wondering if he should, go with bipoles or just stick with regular bookshelves. He's certainly got enough space in his room, and if he does want to elevate those speakers a little bit above ear level, or even just, there are plenty of speaker stands that are 36 inches tall. Now, that's the speaker stand itself, so once you actually put the speaker on top of that, most speakers being a little over a foot tall if they're bookshelves, then it's a little bit elevated, and that'd be fine. That'd be totally fine. So given the setup, given the size of his room, I'd be like, just go with some bookshelf speakers. I wouldn't really worry about, going bipoles or dipoles in this case. Yeah. And if you're okay with putting it on a stand, I would, and I'd go for one that's a little bit taller, like a 36-inch stand.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get them like that 2 feet above your head, like people's.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well, you can, because you can get like those professional monitor stands, right? The ones that actually
oh
hold
yeah.
big PA speakers or something like that. It can be done, but
Theoretically, yeah, you can hang them from chains from your ceiling too,
yeah,
but no
yeah,
one's
I
going
know.
to do that. Well, I'm not going to be caught recommending that to somebody. Though I did see a bed that was like that. They had put like a plywood or planks or something like
Hmm.
that, and hung it from the ceiling by chains. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Anyways, all right. He's heard us loud and clear that two subwoofers is the way to go. Do they need to be able to be individually pressurize this entire open space though, or is the cumulative thing where having two subwoofers will allow him to use smaller models?
3 decibels.
Yeah, that's all you get, dude.
That's all you get.
You
You
get
are
three
getting
extra decibels
three
by having two of
decibels.
them. So what do you think? Yeah, hey, believe me, by the time you get to the point where you're gonna unless you're one of these people who's like, oh yeah, 35 hertz, it's fine. If you're looking for a model that's gonna be able to get as low as you want it to go, you're almost all the way to big enough to pressurize your room. You're looking at ports, anything with ports, and you're looking at something low, and by the time you get there, it's gonna be able to pressurize your room. So we talked about big subwoofers last week,
Yeah.
So
HSU Power Sound Audio. If you're looking for lower prices, they'll be your
yeah,
friends.
those
Yeah.
little ones.
He mentioned something in his email which I really want to touch upon, because he was saying he's not like a super duper bass head. He doesn't want like walls shaking. He doesn't want to knock things off the walls. He doesn't want to blow his windows out. That's not what he's after. He dislikes it when the bass is, so reverberant and boomy that it overpowers, the rest of the sounds. So here's the
Dude,
part.
we all do. Let's
Yeah.
start with that. Go on.
But here's the part where it's counterintuitive, because very often the reason the bass sounds that way is because it's distorting. And
Yes.
it's distorting because the subwoofer is struggling to pressurize the room. So it's attempting to pressurize the room. You need to turn it up because it just doesn't sound loud enough, or the bass just isn't there, or doesn't have enough tactile impact until you turn it way up. And then it starts distorting, and then it starts overpowering and sounding bloated and boomy and awful. So you need headroom. You need, in order, if you want clarity of bass, so this, it's counterintuitive to think, if I want clarity of bass, and for bass that doesn't actually strike me as me going, oh wow, that sounds really loud and boomy, you actually need a lot of headroom. You actually need to properly pressurize the room so that when a tight little punch just goes boom in the bass and just goes boom like that and hits, and it's supposed to be really quick and tight and hit you in the chest like that, that actually takes a lot of pressure. It takes a lot of air movement to do that. So that's where you can't just say, oh, I don't want my bass super loud, so I don't need a big sub. The little sub is going to sound louder because it's distorting.
Well, incorrect placement, or only having one, even if you have one
Mm-hmm.
big sub in a bad placement,
Yeah.
you're gonna hear that boominess that you're talking about, that things rattling and things. And I often joke about, oh, you're gonna blow the doors off your place and stuff like that. And it's true, you could, but when you
Well,
properly set
the
up
air is
your
moving
whole,
back and forth, so the door
yeah,
would go out and back in.
that's true. Something would have to give eventually. But when you're talking about these a subwoofer that is, even if it's big enough to pressure, even if you get these one big massive SPSs or the Power Sound Audios, or one of these other massive subs, and it's big enough to pressurize your entire room all by itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You put it in a bad placement,
Mm-hmm.
and you level match it with everything else, and then it dips down, where
Yep.
there's some sort of null, and all of a sudden the bass is gone, and then so basically there's some weird thing happening in the movie, but you're not really hearing it because that you're sitting in a null. Well, then all of a sudden it switches to another thing, and then there's a big hump in your frequency response, and all of a sudden it's overpowering all over you, right?
Yep.
It's shaking. You feel it in your chest. It's shaking the room and everything else. You're like, where did that come from? That even bass.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you're going to hear people say who have multiple subwoofers and they have them properly placed and properly calibrated is the bass is. I don't really hear it until I need to hear it, and then I hear it, and
Yep.
it's gone.
Yep.
Oh,
We've mentioned it before. A lot of people, the first time they hear really clean, even, uniform bass, they go, oh, that sounds quieter. That's their first reaction.
Yeah,
Because they're
not
hearing
hearing
all of
all
the
that,
bullshit.
all that up and down and up and down and up and down
Yeah.
as the bass goes through all these nulls and peaks.
Yeah.
It's yes. So don't be afraid of the big subwoofer. Be a little afraid of it, but don't be afraid of the little big subwoofer. The two big subwoofers will make this sound better, not
Mhm.
louder, not boomier, better,
Yep.
more even, and less boomy. Now, number 4, last. Looking at his room, he isn't sure how he would run the subwoofer connection to the back wall of his theater area. He has filled in his diagram to show the doors and openings that would make running a wire all the way around the perimeter of his room a bit tricky. What can we suggest? Okay, well, we could go wireless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's my suggestion.
Caesar Snap AV, that Snap AV one, the P920 ES sub wireless thingy.
Yeah, I don't actually know where to buy that. They seem to only be sold through dealers. So the regular name of it is the Episode Wireless Subwoofer Kit.
There you
go.
Anyways. And the Outlaw Audio that has an OAW3. Is that what it's called?
That's the one I'd go for because it's easy to just buy online. So.
Don't discount moldings, top moldings and bottom moldings. So if you run something up a corner, and just throw some paint on it and then put some molding up there, you can, or you can do what I've done. I did it in this theater. Pulled off the baseboard, cut a hole, and if you have molding at the top, pull off the molding at the top, cut a hole. You can run that wire right behind there to get it back there as well if you want to go wired.
Yeah, like up and over the door through the casing of the door, basically, right?
That's the way these speakers, my right surround speaker goes through the casing of the door by a bathroom right there. It goes all the way around the baseboard to come over here. Pulled all the baseboards off to do it. But it wasn't a big deal. I had to cut some drywall away.
Being a subwoofer and being only one subwoofer and being that you have an X4000 that has sub EQ HT and can totally nail the delays on 2 subwoofers independently, I just think wireless is the easiest way to go here because it's only one of them, right? One of them he can have towards the front of his system, and the other one he can have towards the back of his system. So he only needs to do this for one of them with sub EQ HT. If it gives you a weird-looking distance, like it tells you your subwoofer is 30 feet away from your seat, leave that alone because it's not the actual distance, it's the delay. So it's accounting for if there's 10 milliseconds of delay in the wireless signal, like there are in these ones, then that's going to add about 10 feet of so-called distance in the subwoofer setting. So whatever that comes out when sub EQ HT runs during your Odyssey setup, leave it alone because it probably knows better than you in this particular case as far as the delay goes. But yeah, I vote for wireless.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Now, let's see how much time we have. We've been going for an hour and 45, Rob.
I know we have.
You've been prattling on about stuff.
Oh, I'm the only one. I am the only one who went on any tangents today. Tom did not do any tangents.
Try to keep you on constantly. All right. We can do one. You want to do?
We can do one. We got to do one.
Cable one. Or just do the CD one.
Okay. We'll do the newest one first.
Yes, of course. Because it's the shortest one. David S. found us a product to talk about. It's called. Let me open this up here. The Audio Desk CD Sound Improving System.
Are you sure it's not Systeme?
It does say that later, doesn't it?
I have no idea if that is a typo or if that is really. I mean, they say it's made in Germany. Is that how they spell system with an E on the word system? Systeme? I don't know. Yeah. That isn't how you pronounce things in German. You don't pronounce it Systeme. All
right. So what this is it's a box with a little like a spinner thing to put your CD on, and looks like a tone arm. Sort of thing for your whatever, and there's a belt, of course, because it's got to be belt driven. Can I click on this to zoom on it? I can. Oh, look at that. Yeah. So it says Systeme on top of the thing.
I know.
On the thing. So but on the web page it doesn't. Okay, for the it's called a system. On the other thing it's a system CD lathe.
Yeah.
A hint of what's coming. Now the price is $1,100, but it is now on sale for a limited. It doesn't say limited time. It's probably forever. But it's now on sale for $599. What will this amazing product do for you? I'm glad you asked that, Rob. What it will do for you is that it will. Okay, I can't believe I have to say.
You've got to just read what it says.
All right, this was. We highly recommend the Audio Desk Systeme, a unique motorized cutting device manufactured in Germany, designed to true the shape of the CD to reduce mechanical jitter. The ADS. Oh, we're now
abbreviating it.
Abbreviating it because Systeme. The ADS also trims the edge of the CD to a 38-degree angle to reduce laser scatter. Now, I just want to say to start off with that if lasers are hitting the edge of your CD, you already have an issue.
The outer edge, all the time. All the time. The entire time they're playing that CD, all they're doing is hitting that outer edge and scattering everywhere. Because it wasn't cut at a 38-degree angle previously.
Yes, before that it was just
that's
sort of
your problem, man.
willy-nilly with the angle. This new edge is then treated with an included black marker, a.k.a. Sharpie. Okay? This 60-second process results in pronounced improvements in focus, transient attack, detail, and transparency. The included, I can't believe this part. Out of all the BS that's in here, this is the thing that blew my mind. The included hardened cutting blade trims about 2,000 CDs. The thing cost $600 damn dollars. $600. Okay. Let me tell you something about $600, dude. For $100, my parents bought me one of those knife sharpener thingies that you turn it on. It's got spinning blades, 4 spinning diamond edge blades. $100. This thing will only do 2,000 CDs before you have to get a new blade for the thing, and it's $600.
No, it's $1,100, Tom. They're giving you a deal.
Yeah, they're giving you a deal. That's right. Then you can afford it, the extra, whatever. All right. Let's just talk about everything that's wrong with this thing. Please, for the love of God, do not shave your CDs. I can't imagine what that could possibly do for you. Okay, there's no laser hitting the edge. Let's start with that. The second is it's reducing mechanical jitter. Now, if there was mechanical jitter, meaning the thing was going up and down like this because it was wobbling in some way, the problem would not be at the edge of the CD. That was not. It would be in unevenness of the CD throughout. Think about it. It would wobble back and forth because of more weight on one side than the other. You think that's all going to be on the edge? Why do you think that? Or do you just think that if you shave down the middle of it, you won't be able to hear the CD anymore, and they certainly won't pay you $600 for that?
I can tell you one other thing this thing might do, considering a considerable amount of the glue that physically holds together discs is on the edge. You might very well just pop the actual protective plastic layer off of the metal layer that actually contains all the data. That would be fun. That would be good.
That probably makes it airier and lighter.
I had that happen to one HD DVD, as it turns out. It was actually one of those flipper discs that had a DVD on one side and an HD DVD on the other, and the DVD side came apart from the HD DVD side. The glue that held it together, that all came apart. I actually tried just putting in the HD DVD side without the DVD side on top of it. It was light and quite wobbly and flimsy. Played just fine.
Oh.
Played just fine.
Do it to all your discs.
Didn't even have to cut it with a $600 lathe.
Okay, here it is. This is a must-have product. This is from Richard Foster at Hi-Fi Plus, issue 44. Surprised they have that many issues. This is a must-have product for anyone really interested in maximizing the potential of their CD SACD collection, not DVDAs. Screw those guys. Yeah. The product is reasonable. I don't think you know what that word means. The price is reasonable, and the construction and presentation of the product is outstanding. The results are simply quite staggering.
Yes, I'd be staggered if all my CDs fell apart.
I would be. That would be. Let's see, Stereophile. This is issue. Geez, looks like from a 99, August 99. Oh, it just has the. Is there going to be more of it, or that's just going to be the? Oh wait, here's the page. I can find the review.
So this is the problem when a publication goes and posts something like this, because it makes me want to say, I don't want to listen to anything you have to say. Now, that doesn't mean that some of what they say in their reviews might not be useful and true, but when something is this patently stupid and absolutely there is no way it can do what it claims to do. There is no way. Zero. That is not how CDs work. CDs do not work by spinning the laser around only the outside edge. There is no way to improve transient attack, detail, and transparency by coloring in your CD with a black marker, or a green marker, as has often been the case, by hand, because we all know your hand is so much more precise than a laser. Like, none of this is even the least bit remotely possible, and yet there's reviews from publications saying this is a worthwhile product and a reasonably priced one. Like, yeah. It's very, very frustrating to see something like that, because it just makes me want to say, I no longer want to hear anything that your publication prints. So, have you found the review yet?
I am currently reading the review home. Oh, dang it! I was so close to liking this.
Ah.
Okay. Oh man, that stinks. All right, so this is Sam's Space on Stereophile 1999. By the way, there used to be a different version of this that cost $4.95 with a standard cutting blade,
Okay.
or $5.50 with a hardened one. So the hardened one is
Mm.
all they offer now.
Mm-hmm.
The hardened blade is a better deal, it says. It costs about 2,000 CDs instead of a mere 400 for the non-hardened one, which
Oh,
apparently is made of plastic or maybe paper.
soft cheese.
Back in the day, back in the day, the replacement blades were $35 and $90, respectively. $90 for a cutting blade. Okay, he spends the entire thing making fun of these things. He says, he calls it the circumcising. He says it circumcises your CDs, which I think is awesome. He says, I got a chance to use the device myself on a CD. Now, I know how powerful and terrifying it must feel to be a, I don't know what that says. Oh, a ritual circumciser. I don't know. I can't read it because it's true. And not only that, I got to an untreated CD to compare. And circumcision may or not be a good idea for humans. Someday that uncircumcised males may have more fun, whatever. But it does seem to be beneficial for CDs. More detail, a better sense of space. Does it work? Yep. Why? I suspect that it's mainly a matter of truing the CD so it wobbles less. Dang it, Sam. You have disappointed me. The distributor is whatever. If this thing catches on, I can't wait for the jokes. The problem I'm not kidding what to do with the clippings. Okay, stop with the jokes. Anyways, so yeah, that's kind of disappointing that somebody actually reviewed that thing, and that's what they came up with. Audio Magazine and the Hi-Fi News. We already, I think. Lathe, another one.
There is no way to make your ones and zeros one-ear and zero-ear. Just.
Yeah, the other review that wasn't the one that they talked about already is not a review. It's just like a product announcement. So that was an actual sort of kind of review from the Stereophile guys, which had a real opportunity there to show their ability not to be $500 to cut off the edge of your CD. That's just. Yeah. Why would you think it would work? What would even make it?
Because you really have to not understand how digital signals work or what a CD is doing. Like if you really just don't understand it, then that is the only possible way you could believe this. Like it's true if enough bits are lost, right? The disc is spinning around, the laser is firing up onto the reflective disc. If the light shines back, then that's either a 1 or a 0. I forget whether, if the light either shines back or it doesn't. That's what's happening, and I forget which one corresponds to 1 or 0, but that's it. It's binary. Either the light comes back or it doesn't, based on the reflectivity of the disc as that disc is spinning around. That's how it's working. So, it is possible that every time a 1 was supposed to come back, it doesn't because you super scratched up the disc. We've done that. I'm sure everyone has done that to a CD. Super scratched up the surface, and now when you try to play it, it doesn't play. It just plain doesn't play, right?
Or you get a scratch and it'll skip, or something. The laser will bounce to a different place and skips, or it'll kind of have a jitter for a second, like a real jitter. That's
but it is either that or perfect.
Yeah.
And nowhere in between. It is either a very obvious error, and that absolutely can happen. You can have 1s and 0s lost due to scratching up the surface or physically damaging the disc in some way. But other than that, it's either that or perfect. There is no making it perfect-er. So,
yeah.
Gah. Yes. Thank you, David. Thank you for letting us end the podcast on a rage.
I would like to hear from somebody who's tried this thing. No, I don't. I just want to know if anybody knows anybody who's bought one, because that would be worth hearing about. All right, next time maybe we'll get to one of these other ones. We got one on a cable and one on a subwoofer, which one of these days we will get to. It's apparently the best subwoofer ever, and it's only $160. All right, let's see.
Modify it.
So,
got to modify it.
Oh yeah, you gotta make it The electrons.
Which I suspect is the entire purpose of the review. I think those two guys are friends, and that is the only way this guy would sell any of his modifications ever. But we will save that for another day.
Yes. John, Jose, Matthew, Michael, and Matt. Thank you guys for being our listeners of the week. We really appreciate it. Buddy, if you need any more help, or just keep us in the loop in your little conversations with Michael, because we're really interested to see how this whole thing plays out. We'd like to know what you end up with, and if you end up with a sound bar, I apologize for thinking that you want one. If you don't, then Rob. Ha! All right. You can contact us at Tom at avrant.com, Rob at avrant.com, Facebook.com/avrantpodcast. The website, of course, is www.avrant.com. And for Twitter, at FirstReflect for Rob, and at avrant_Tom for me. All right, guys, for AV Rant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
And in a little while, maybe I'll be listening to something. We will see. Ooh, so
exciting.
Subwoofers.
2 of them that you are never sending back.
Nope. All right, guys. In a couple of minutes here, we will be starting up the after party, so hang around, and we will see you then. Bye.